Okay. Good afternoon. Happy Friday, everyone. This morning, the Security Council held a meeting on maintenance of peace and security of Ukraine. Briefing council members, the Undersecretary General for Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Rosemary DiCarlo, said that as we are all only too aware, the killing, destruction, and suffering continue unabated in Ukraine. Ms. DiCarlo noted that the most significant destruction of civilian infrastructure to date took place on the 6th of June, when the Kakhovka Dam was damaged. She pointed out that as part of our immediate response to the incident, the UN and humanitarian partners have rushed to deliver supplies and evacuation support for hundreds of thousands of people in the affected area. Ms. DiCarlo said that there are still people we are unable to reach, and the Russian Federation has so far declined our request to go to these areas. She stressed that aid cannot be denied to people who need it and urged the Russian authorities to act in accordance with their obligations under international humanitarian law and ensure safe and unfettered access to all areas in need. The Undersecretary General also noted that since its signing in July last year, the Black Sea Initiative has enabled the safe transportation of over 32 million metric tons of foodstuffs. We are, however, disappointed by the slowing pace of the implementation of the initiative, she said, urging that all obstacles be removed to ensure the continuation of this agreement. Her full remarks have been shared with you. Also in Ukraine, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs continues to support communities impacted by the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam. 2 interagency convoys, one yesterday and one today, delivered aid to more than 3,000 civilians in 4 villages of the Tyahinka community in the Kherson region. The supplies included water and water purification tabs, 30-day food rations, medical supplies, and hygiene and shelter kits, among others. Our humanitarian colleagues note that most of the people in these villages are older people from rural communities impacted by the flooding, which destroyed homes and disrupted critical services, including water, gas, and electricity supplies. These communities have already been enduring the heavy impact of hostilities, which left them without electricity since November last year. The only source of water has been community boreholes, which are no longer safe due to contamination after the flooding. The latest supplies in the 2 recent convoys were provided by the International Organization for Migration, UNICEF, the UN Refugee Agency, the World Food Program, the World Health Organization, and World Vision International. In addition to this, dozens of aid organizations, including UN agencies and NGOs, have been working since day one to support people, complementing the work of local groups and volunteers. The Secretary General is following with concern developments in Sierra Leone in the run-up to the 24th of June elections. He calls on all political actors and their supporters to adhere to the 25th of May presidential candidate's peace pledge and to contribute to the holding of transparent, credible, and peaceful elections. The Special Representative of the Secretary General for West Africa and the Sahel, Leonardo Santos Chamau, arrived in Freetown yesterday to engage with key political leaders in collaboration with the African Union, ECOWAS, and other international partners. The Secretary General reaffirms the United Nations' commitment to continue supporting the government and people of Sierra Leone in their efforts to consolidate peace, democracy, and development. The Deputy Secretary General, Amina Mohammed, will depart this weekend to undertake an official visit to China in a series of engagements with government and business leaders, as well as other key stakeholders, to strengthen cooperation in the areas of financing for sustainable development and climate action for the Sustainable Development Goals. During her trip, Ms. Mohammed is expected to visit projects focused on addressing climate change, technology, and biodiversity conservation. The Deputy Secretary General will then continue to Bangladesh to engage with the government and other stakeholders in discussions on climate action and the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals at their crucial midway point to galvanize support for the summit in September 2023. And also on Bangladesh, we have a trip announcement from our peacekeeping colleagues. Starting today and until the 26th of June, the Undersecretary General for Peace Operations, Jean-Pierre Lacroix, will be traveling to Dhaka, Bangladesh, to attend the first UN Peacekeeping Ministerial Preparatory Meeting. This is the first of a series of 4 themed conferences ahead of the UN Peacekeeping Ministerial to be held in Accra, Ghana, on the 5th and 6th of December 2023. The theme of the preparatory meeting, which is co-hosted by Bangladesh, Canada, and Uruguay, is Women in UN Peacekeeping. The 2-day meeting will welcome representatives from troop and police contributing countries and UN peacekeeping experts to discuss progress, challenges, and good practices to promote women's meaningful participation in UN peacekeeping and to foster gender-responsive leadership. After Bangladesh, Mr. Lacroix will travel to Nepal and Bhutan from the 27th of June to the 3rd of July. He will discuss the country's ongoing support to UN peace operations, including within the framework of the Peacekeeping Ministerial. In Egypt, our team, led by Resident Coordinator Elena Panova, is addressing food insecurity challenges worsened by disrupted grain exports from Russia and Ukraine and increasing fuel import costs. Our team has been supporting vulnerable groups, including migrants, refugees, and the impoverished, through cash transfers, vouchers, and food distribution. During just the first 4 months of this year, we provided nearly 130 metric tons of food, and this assistance has intensified over the past 3 months due to the Sudan conflict. To date, more than 120,000 displaced Sudanese families in Egypt receive essential aid such as food, water, health services, and cash assistance. The team is also supporting some 4,600 vulnerable smallholder farmers by providing fertilizers, loans, and training to improve their livelihoods. The World Food Program is also distributing daily snacks to primary school students and fortified date bars to 118,000 community school children in 11 local governments. Today's Peacebuilding Day. In her video message, the Assistant Secretary General for Peacebuilding Support, Elizabeth Spehar, underscores the critical need to increase efforts to address root causes of conflict and invest in peacebuilding. In this regard, the significance of the UN peacebuilding architecture has never been greater. Since 2006, the UN Peacebuilding Commission has provided political accompaniment and support for a growing number of countries and regions in their peacebuilding efforts. The Secretary General's Peacebuilding Fund remains the leading instrument for investing in peacebuilding. The Secretary General's proposed new agenda for peace, currently under development, presents an excellent opportunity to prioritize prevention and peacebuilding. And today is also the United Nations Public Service Day. In his message to mark the occasion, the Secretary General says that public servants and the institutions they support will be increasingly critical as the world accelerates action towards the Sustainable Development Goals, which are badly off track. Today is also International Widows' Day. There are more than 258 million widows around the world, but historically they've been left unseen, unsupported, and unmeasured in our societies. Tomorrow is the International Day for Women in Diplomacy, which is a reminder that women's leadership styles, expertise, and priorities broaden the quality of outcomes. And Sunday is the Day of the Seafarer. This year's campaign will look at seafarers' contribution to protecting the marine environment. And last, on Monday, my guest will be Catherine Russell, the Executive Director of the UN Children's Fund, and she will be here to speak about her recent mission to Haiti. That is it from me. Yes, James.
We heard at the stakeout earlier on, and that each of the countries have said it in the Council as well now, from the United States, Albania, UK, France, and Ukraine. They say the Secretary General under Resolution 2231 has a clear mandate to investigate the use of Iranian drones by the Russians in Ukraine. Why is the Secretary General not launching an investigation?
Well, on that, the Secretariat continues to analyze information received with regard to the alleged transfer of uncrewed aerial vehicles by Iran in a manner inconsistent with paragraph 4 of Resolution 2231. And we will report to the Security Council in due course. The next report of the Secretary General will be discussed at a meeting at the experts level on implementation of Resolution 2231 later this month. And a Security Council briefing is expected next month in July.
When will that report be complete? Because it was supposed to have been delivered to the Security Council by now.
Oh, well, like I said, the report should go to should be discussed at the experts level later this month.
When will it be delivered to council members? Not clear.
It's still going through the process, but the council itself is expected to deal with the report probably in early July, so it'll go to them fairly soon.
Final question on this. Is the Secretary General's reluctance to launch an investigation linked to the Black Sea Grain Initiative, the fact that he doesn't want to scupper that? And is that really such a worry now that the Black Sea Grain Initiative, as DSG DiCarlo has said, is virtually not operating at all?
Well, the Black Sea Grain Initiative is a separate issue. We have concerns about that have to do with making sure that that exports from Ukraine and from the Russian Federation go out without hindrance, and we're doing what we can through a variety of avenues, as you're well aware, to expedite the progress of those exports.
You say a separate issue, but I mean, in the Secretary General's calculations, is he weighing one off against the other?
Well, this mandate regarding Resolution 2231 is a separate mandate, and we view it in terms of its own strength. And like I said, we're continuing to analyze information, and we will be discussing it at the experts level, as I just said. Edie.
Following up on that, the U.S. ambassador says this issue is urgent and a matter of life and death for the Ukrainian people. It sounds like the Secretary General and the Secretariat are dragging this out, and we all know that if this goes before the Security Council, that Russia, as a veto-wielding member, will veto any call for an investigation. And so I don't think that we have gotten a clear response to the call from these countries for an immediate investigation by the Secretary General, and they say he has the authority to do it now.
Well, I'll just stick with what I've said on this. The analysis of the information that's been received about this is going on as we speak, and there will be further discussions, both with the experts on this issue, and then with the Security Council. Yes. Yes, Celia.
Farhan, I'd like to know what the SG think of the deployment of resources for 5 people who died in a submarine ride and the lack of resources when it comes to migrants fleeing their country in conflict. Why?
Well,
Why do we spend so much for 5 people who paid a fortune and the people who risk their lives because they cannot live in a country?
This is actually the third consecutive day I've had this particular question, and I don't have anything new to say about it other than that
was not here, so I don't
all
know.
Human life is precious. There should be efforts. You're quite right. There should be efforts to protect the lives of migrants at sea, and we have been calling for that over and over again. And I'm very appreciative that you and the media see that as an issue. At the same time, that shouldn't be pursued at the expense of caring about the poor 5 people who seem to have perished in this incident involving the submersible. All human life is precious. We respect all efforts to save people, regardless of what their income level or their circumstances is.
And
But certainly what you're talking about and what your colleagues have been saying in recent days points to a need that should be noted by the world's governments, which is the need to take seriously efforts to protect the lives of migrants at sea. Yeah, Edie?
On a completely different subject, Aung San Suu Kyi's youngest son has spoken out for the first time, urging the international community to help do something to free his mother from prison, detention, whatever. She's been sentenced to 33 years. There are reports she is not well. What is the Secretary General doing? And does this put pressure on for a speedy appointment of a new special representative?
On the question of a special representative, we're working as quickly as we can to get a replacement for Noeline Hazer named. Regarding the issue of Aung San Suu Kyi, we have consistently called for the release of Aung San Suu Kyi and other senior political detainees in Myanmar, and we will continue to do that. And the Secretary General, the various special envoys, and others throughout the system have been working with different governments, including the governments of the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, to push for that release. Yeah, Linda.
Thank you, Farhan. This is in regard to the Secretary General's report yesterday on children in armed conflict. I know it didn't officially come out, but clearly it was leaked. My question is, part of the story was that Russia was added to the list of countries that have committed grave violations against children. And I think there were like 136 children killed. On the other hand, Ukraine was responsible, according to the study, for 80. I was just wondering if the UN, the report said that many of the children killed by Russians or attributed to the Russians were through shelling and airstrikes. I was just wondering if there was information in terms of how the 80 Ukrainian children, were killed by the Ukrainian forces.
On this, the report will come out on Tuesday. I believe my hands are tied about the contents of the report until that point. We have arranged for Virginia Gamba, the special representative on children in armed conflict, to speak to you on Tuesday morning, and she'll talk to you about the report at that point. Yeah, James.
So you mentioned the trips of, or the trip of USG Lacroix to South Asia. Seems a bit of a strange time for him to be going to South Asia, given how important the situation in Mali is, and the Security Council's got to, one assumes the Peacekeeping Department have got to work very closely with the penholder France to come up with a way to draw down that mission, which is a huge undertaking. It seems a bit strange that he would be able to carry on this trip at this time. One would have thought is the busiest time for that USG possible.
Well, this was a previously planned visit. I do expect that different senior officials will be arranging travel to Mali, and we'll announce that to you.
But the new mandate for that mission has to come out on Thursday. So you've got to arrange a whole plan to extricate a whole mission of 3,000 peacekeepers from Mali by Thursday. What contingency planning is going?
Well, I don't think that anyone is thinking that there's a practical way of withdrawing that many people in a span of days.
No, I understand that. No, but the plan, but the new mandate, which would be a mandate for a mission that's, rather than doing peacekeeping in Mali, is a mission that's drawing down. Completely different purpose now for the mission. The mandate, which is quite detailed, I would have thought, what has to be in the Security Council resolution, and it's not just up to France and Security Council members. They need your advice and your input. Has to be done by Thursday.
Well, we are in touch with the Security Council. We are waiting to get our directions from the Security Council, and hopefully, as you've suggested, that will happen over the coming week, and we will respond accordingly at that point.
So just tell us what sort of planning is going on in this building for this. I mean, and how long would the UN suggest that, or what's the Secretary's advice to the Security Council, how long would it take to withdraw that many troops in a safe and peaceful way to avoid the sort of thing that happened to the Americans in Afghanistan?
I'm not going to get ahead of ourselves. First, we'll wait for the decision that's taken by the Security Council, and then we can proceed with the next steps, which is devising a plan.
Well, yes, Farhan, but quite often the Security Council, this is all happening in a hurry because of Mali's decision to kick you out. Normally, the Secretary General would present options to the Security Council. The Security Council's got to come up with a plan on Thursday.
Well, they received options in the Secretary General's last report.
Which are all outdated.
Now we will see how they respond to that, as well as to the briefings that they've had. But again, we're waiting for them. Then we'll proceed to the next step.
Last point on this. Do you think we could have a briefing, even off the record, from the Peacekeeping Department on what is one of the most important things that they've had to deal with for some years?
Yeah, we'll certainly see whether that's possible and when that is. I expect, however, it will be, again, after the Security Council acts. And with that, Wish you all a good weekend, and Paulina Kubiak will brief you next.